Hello amazing people! Today I am going to show you how to make this very universal wrap skirt that you can use also as a dress and as a top. It is a very beginner friendly project. For this skirt I used very lightweight polyester fabric. However, you can also use silk or viscose as long as it drapes very well. I also used the sewing pattern which you can get in our Etsy store or in our online store. The links are below in the description. Also a matching thread. Now lay the pattern pieces on the fabric and cut the details out. Maybe you already noticed, but this fabric that I am working it, I don't know the proper term in English, but if you know, please let me know in the comment section. In Latvian we call fabrics like this as liquid fabrics, and it means that even when you are cutting it out, it moves so much that it's super difficult to cut very precise and straight details. That's why I highly recommend to use a lot of weights and pin the pattern on the fabric if you need to. And also don't forget to cut the notches. I will be using a sewing machine and a serger to neaten the seams. However, if you don't have a serger, feel free to use the sewing machine's zigzag stitch. Now let's start by preparing the waistband. To easier wrap the waistband around the waist, I am going to make holes in the side seams. Actually, you can make only one hole in one side seam, but for some reason I made two of them. So here you can see the notches, and you need to match these notches for the back and front panels. Now pin the side seams. Now you will need to make 3 separate seams. The first one will go from the upper edge to the first notch. The second seam will go from the second notch to the third one. And the third seam will go from the fourth notch to the lower edge. Each of these seams start and finish with a backstitch. And this is how it should look like with 2 holes. I am also repeating these steps for the other side seam, but as I told you, can simply make one straight stitch if one hole on the one side is enough. Now let's press the both side seams open. Fold the waistband on half and press it. Now press 1 cm of the seam allowance on one side of the waistband, starting from one notch to another notch. This step will be very helpful later when we will be sewing the waistband to the skirt panels. After ironing, let's finish making the hole in the waistband. Take one side of the seam allowance and fold the seam allowance parts together. So there will be 2 layers facing each other. and match the notches, pin, and you will have to make a seam starting from one notch to another. It doesn't have to be 1 centimeter apart, it can also be like 7 millimeters. The point of this step is to completely close the hole, so even after a lot of using or washing, the waistband will not tear. Repeat exactly the same steps with the other side of the seam allowance. And now the hole is finished very nicely. Give some extra press to make it look nicer. Now find the notches on the waistband that indicates where the waistband gets sewn on the skirt panels and where the long tails are starting. Fold the waistband on half, right sides facing. Pin around the open edge. Sew starting from the notch to the end of it. After finishing the seam, cut off the corners. By this step, we will be able to get very sharp and nice looking corners when the waistband will be turned from inside out. And now let's do the same steps with the other side of the waistband. Now let's turn the belt details of the waistband from inside out. I am using a brush, but you can use any kind of other sticks as well, such as pencils or some kind of markers. Just be careful not to make the fabric dirty. This is how the belt details are looking after turning inside out, but it's not a very professional look. That's why this next step is extremely important to do. I will be using a regular sewing needle and a thread in a different color. At first I'm using only the tip of the needle and I try to bring the seam towards outside as much as I can. In this way I can form the corners and the edge of the belt very nice and sharp. I know, this might seem like a lot of work, but this way of working with edges will be really leveling up the look of your garments that you will make. Another way how to get the edges nice and sharp and how it is done in manufacturing, it is to skip the hand stitching and go directly to the ironing board. Then by using your fingers, try to bring the seam as close to the outside as you can and press it slowly centimeter by centimeter. but in that way you are risking to burn your fingers. That's why I can suggest that method only for those who are very experienced and very comfortable with an iron. Press the both ends of the waistband. Lay the skirt back panel with the skirt front panel right sides facing. Pin the side seam. Stitch starting from the waist to the hand. Now let's sew together the other side seam. Knit on both side seams, either by a serger or with the sewing machine's zigzag stitch. Press both side seams towards the skirt's back panel. For the skirt opening part, I will be using a baby hem. Fold the fabric around 1 cm from the edge and make a seam around 2 to 3 mm apart from the edge. Do the step with the both sides. Personally, I like to give a quick press at this point because I feel it's easier to work with the baby hem later. Now take the scissors, either they are your sewing scissors or I sometimes use scissors for manicure. The main thing is that they are sharp enough. Cut off the excessive fabric. Be very careful not to cut in the stitch and don't cut in the main part of the skirt fabric. Fold the edge again and make a stitch around 3 mm apart from the edge. This is how the result should look like. I really love pressing. Now let's join the waistband to the skirt panels. Take that side of the waistband which doesn't have the pressed seam allowance and match the skirt right sides with the waistband right side. Pin around by matching the side seams. Now sew together. There must be only 2 layers that you are sewing together. Press the seam upwards towards the waistband. Let's use a hand stitch again. Work from the wrong side of the skirt. Take the raw edge of the waistband, which was previously pressed. Fold it over the stitch you just made so it covers it around 1 mm above it. Fix it in place by using a hand stitch. Remember to use pins if that helps. And now we're ready to make a stitch in the ditch. Work from the right side and make a seam very close to the seam you made previously. Stitch together the skirt panel and the back part of the waistband. Take all the time you need because this part is a bit tricky. So this is how it should look like. I guess I could have made the seam a bit closer, but oh well, I blame it on the fabric. Now take out all the threads left from the hand stitching. Just in case, you can try the skirt on and decide whether you like the length or maybe you want to make them shorter. By the way, I made that headscarf from the leftover fabric, and when I tied the skirt around my neck as a dress, I discovered that I can use the headband as a belt. And this is our last big step to do. So we need to finish by hemming, and I will use the baby hem again. So you know the drill already. Let's fold 1 cm apart from the edge and make a stitch. Let's cut the excessive fabric of the seam allowance. Press, 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 press. Fold it again and make the seam 3 mm apart from the edge. Now give the final press if you need to, and that's it, we are finished. Leave a comment down below if you have any questions or you already have made this skirt. And subscribe to our channel for more sewing tutorials. Bye!